Hello, I'm doing a movie review, and the movie I want to review is Godzilla Planet of the Monsters. Now, this is a 2017 anime film based on the Godzilla franchise. Now, this came out theatrically in Japan in 2017, but it was released worldwide on Netflix in early 2018. Now, I got this DVD at a convention a few months ago, however I don't believe the film is officially available on DVD here in the States, but I could be wrong on that. Now, this is the 32nd Godzilla film, and it's the second film of what I think is being called the Reiwa Godzilla series. I probably completely butchered that name. Now, the first film in this series was 2016's Shin Godzilla. However, this film shares no continuity with that film, or any previous Godzilla film for that matter. This is also the first film of the Anime Godzilla trilogy. This was followed by City on the Edge of Battle and The Planet Eater. And this series is unconnected to the American Godzilla series that Legendary is currently doing. Now, when this movie came out, I saw a lot of really negative fan reception of this movie, and to be honest, I kinda understand why. My opinions on this movie are almost the definition of mixed. Like, I totally see what this movie was going for, but overall I found this movie to be kind of a slug to get through, honestly. I will say, I do think this anime trilogy does get better. I actually thought the third one was quite good, but I'll save that for when I review that one. But yeah, this first one I just thought was really kind of boring. Now, I don't subscribe to the philosophy that a lot of Godzilla fans have, that you don't watch Godzilla for the human characters, you just watch it for the monsters, because people who say that, and this is going to be somewhat of a douchebaggish statement, but I feel like people who say that clearly have never seen the original Godzilla, which very much is a human drama that just happens to feature a giant monster, but that movie is really about those characters and how their lives are affected by the appearance of this giant monster. And people forget just how dark and political the original Godzilla was. Actually, I would almost hold that movie up there with the original Planet of the Apes as one of the most political science fiction films ever made. But I think the biggest difference between this and the original Godzilla film is, with the original film, you were at least invested in the human story. I see this movie sort of having the same problem that Godzilla 2014 had. Godzilla 2014 tried to be like the original film, where it focused on the human characters, and it was really about how the appearance of these giant monsters is affecting the lives of these characters. The issue with that movie is the only character that was given that movie any sort of pathos they killed off like 30 minutes in. So, when it comes to this movie, I will say the basic story is quite good, and it does seem to be trying to go back to the roots of the series, where it's really about these characters, and it's about their struggle with Godzilla. The issue with this movie is the human characters are just very cliched. Like, you've seen characters like this before in other movies of this kind. Now, certainly this is not the first Godzilla movie to have cliched human characters, but usually if a Godzilla movie does fail in the human characters department, at least there's good monster action to fall back on, and of course I prefer the Godzilla movies that have both good human drama and good monster action, but this is a case where it really doesn't have either, in my opinion. But my biggest problem with this movie is it really does feel like a giant setup for the other two movies, which, as I said, I do think were significantly better. Now, as I said, I do think the basic story for this is quite good. It's basically a Moby Dick story. Like, there's some obvious parallels between the main character and Captain Ahab. But I thought the whole idea of reinterpreting Moby Dick as a Godzilla story was ironically done a lot better in a Godzilla comic called Godzilla: The Half-Century War, which was about a man who spent 50 years of his life trying to fight Godzilla, and that's actually a really good comic. Like, had they adapted that comic into a movie, that would make actually a pretty good movie. Now, the plot of Planet of the Monsters is at a certain point at the end of the 20th century, so this is obviously taken place in sort of an alternate universe, but at the end of the 20th century, the Earth started to get ravaged by giant monsters, the worst of which was Godzilla, who drove the human race to near extinction. So these two alien races called the Exif and the Bayou Saludo, I'm probably butchering the name of that other alien race, but they come to Earth to assist humanity in this fight against Godzilla, but when all efforts to destroy Godzilla failed, humanity's only chance of survival is to evacuate the planet. So, for the past 20 years, humanity has been coexisting with these two alien races in space. Now, the main character of the movie is a young man named Hiro, if I'm saying his name right, and he was only a child when humanity abandoned Earth, and he bears a deep hatred for Godzilla. And he has become sort of a military leader, and he has published data on how to destroy Godzilla. So eventually they return to Earth, and he leads an effort to take Earth back from Godzilla. However, when they get to Earth, they discover that, while for them it's only been a little over 20 years, on Earth thousands of years have passed. And Godzilla's presence on the Earth has drastically altered the planet. I should probably talk about the animation in the film. Now, I generally find Japanese animation to be absolutely beautiful, but particularly when it's hand-drawn. The animation in this is computer-generated. Now, technically it is good, but I'm not a fan of computer-generated animation at all. I find it to be kind of ugly, to be honest. Now, I totally understand why this wasn't hand-drawn animation, because I can imagine that takes a pretty long time, and I think Toho really wanted to get this out quickly. Now, I'm not saying there isn't hard work that goes into computer animation. I know there is, so I'm probably being unfair to the animators of this film. I just have kind of a personal and maybe unfair bias to computer animation where I don't personally think it looks good. Now, when it came to the main character, Hiro Sakaki, I will say the character was very angsty, but it kind of made sense, being that the character is only in his early 20s and everything that the character went through, and that is sort of a trope in anime, or at least all the anime that I've seen. So I would have been able to forgive it if the other characters were maybe a little more interesting. I will say the character's first name, I'm pretty sure, is meant to be a reference to suit actor Hiro Nakajima, who played Godzilla throughout most of the Showa era. Honestly, the most interesting character in this movie for me, but this was only because of what was revealed about this character in the sequels, is the character of Methes, who is one of the Exif. And I do think it's interesting how the Exif are actually a very religious race, and they do talk about God, and you do get a sense that they sort of dictate their religion onto the humans and then the other alien race whose name I'm having trouble pronouncing. But that commentary on religion is far more fleshed out in the other two movies, especially the third one. Even the final battle at the end with Godzilla I thought was kinda lackluster. And it's a shame, because this movie is animated, there's so much more you could do with the monster stuff that you can't do with live action, but the movie really doesn't take advantage of that. And again, the movie just feels like a giant setup for the other two movies, so if you're looking at this as a standalone film, it kinda sucks. But yeah, that was my review on Godzilla, Planet of the Monsters. Now, I'm gonna be a little kinder to the other two movies, because I thought the second film in this trilogy, City on the Edge of Battle, was better. However, my biggest problem with that movie, and I'll talk about this more in that review, but throughout the film, it seems like it's setting up something, and then it never actually gets to what it seems like the film was setting up. But the third film, The Planet Eater, that was easily the best of this trilogy, so that one I will actually have some good things to say about. But that was my review, and bye.